Breaking news out of the NBA. LeBron James is taking his talents to Philadelphia.
Everyone is stunned in the NBA, right?
Nobody saw this coming. Not the insiders, not the sportsbooks, not even the people closest to LeBron James himself. The NBA's all-time leading scorer, a man who earned $52.6 million last season, just signed a 2-year deal worth $8 million total. That's not a pay cut. That's a 92% collapse in salary. And buried inside his own announcement was something even wilder than the number itself. LeBron James seriously considered retiring this summer. He sat with that decision for weeks, alone, with his family, with genuinely no idea what came next. And then he came out the other side choosing a team that 3 weeks earlier was handed a top 15 player by their biggest rival for pennies on the dollar. This isn't just a signing. This might be the single best offseason any franchise has ever pulled off in NBA history.
Did that when they chose to prioritize Austin Reeves over LeBron James.
Past year, we saw LeBron James at the age of 41 lead the Lakers out of the first round without Luka Doncic, without Austin Reeves.
So now Luka Doncic is going to have to elevate his game even more from a leadership standpoint.
To understand why LeBron actually left Los Angeles, you have to go back further than this summer. Back to February of last year, when the Lakers pulled off the unthinkable, trading Anthony Davis to Dallas for Luka Doncic, a top 3 superstar acquired in a single trade. Almost every executive in the league called it a heist from LA's side. But that trade did something else entirely. It quietly rewired the franchise's future overnight, and LeBron wasn't part of that new picture. According to reporting from inside the organization, the Lakers sat down with Luka, his manager, and his camp last May and handed them a binder, a physical binder, outlining the franchise's long-term plans built entirely around him. Here's the part that stings. That exact binder used to be LeBron's. Now it belonged to a 26-year-old, and LeBron wasn't even in the room to see it happen. The Lakers reportedly mapped out this entire 2026 offseason with Luka's camp, and LeBron's name was nowhere in those plans. This wasn't LeBron blindsiding the Lakers. The Lakers quietly wrote him out a year in advance. They just never said it out loud. And if you want the moment this became undeniable, it wasn't about LeBron at all. It was about Austin Reeves. In late June, the Lakers handed Reeves a 4-year, $185 million contract, the richest deal ever given to an undrafted player in league history. They only got there because Detroit showed up ready to offer Reeves the max, even willing to trade away a starter to clear the cap room. Los Angeles panicked, jumped their offer all the way to $46 million a year, and locked in their next decade. Luka and Reeves, not LeBron. And here's where it turns into something messier than money. Back in January, Rich Paul publicly floated the idea of sending Reeves to Memphis for Jaren Jackson Jr. The Lakers were reportedly furious that their franchise player's own agent was publicly discussing a teammate's future. There was even a confrontation between Reeves's camp and Rich Paul at a Lakers game. Connect those dots. LeBron's camp wanted Reeves moved. The Lakers responded by making him the richest undrafted player in history. That's about as clear a signal as this league ever sends. So what actually made LeBron walk away? There are 3 real theories, and honestly, they can all be true at once. Maybe it was never about his role. It was about being planned around without ever being told. Maybe some part of him still needs to prove he can be the guy, even at 41. Or maybe the fit was still perfect, but the relationship simply ran its course. Whatever the real answer is, one thing is clear. This departure was never about basketball. It was about respect.
His intentions were at face value. He made it very clear from the beginning. I want to compete for a championship. I want to win at a high level. This is not a money-driven decision.
So on July 24th, LeBron dropped the news that broke the internet. He admitted he genuinely thought his career was over when last season ended. He needed real time to figure out if he still loved the game. And then he wrote the sentence that stopped the entire sports world in its tracks. I believe I can help make the Philadelphia 76ers a championship team. This is year 24, one last dance. Within minutes, the entire league reacted in disbelief. He skipped Cleveland, the full-circle homecoming everyone assumed was inevitable. He skipped Miami, his own franchise legacy. He skipped Golden State and Minnesota, too. He chose the one team that gave him the least sentimental reason to say yes, and the most basketball reason to actually win. Two things sealed it. First, an aggressive recruiting push. Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, and Jaylen Brown personally reached out. The players themselves came and got him. Second, a familiar face running the front office. Mike Gansey, Philadelphia's new team president, has known LeBron since high school in Ohio, and later worked directly in Cleveland's front office. In a decision this close, 25 years of trust became the tiebreaker. Pennsylvania's governor actually declared July 24th National LeBron James Day. This man had been a Sixer for one morning, and he already had a state holiday. But underneath all of that celebration sits a genuinely wild fact. The situation LeBron just walked away from might have been the ideal setup for a 41-year-old. Last season, playing behind Luka and Reeves as basically the third option, LeBron shot 51.5% from the field, playing fewer minutes, resting on back-to-backs, thriving in a smaller role. That's the exact same graceful exit path legends like Kareem next to Magic Johnson took. He was walking away from the perfect soft landing and signing up for something far less comfortable.
So now you got Jaylen Brown, okay, who's big time, obviously, with Tyrese Maxey.
To understand why Philadelphia specifically made sense, rewind to last spring. The Sixers shocked the league, knocking the second-seeded Boston Celtics out of the playoffs in a full Game 7. Jaylen Brown, still processing that loss, was notably critical publicly, even taking shots at his future teammate Joel Embiid's tendency to flop. And then, just weeks later, Boston did something nobody expected. They traded Jaylen Brown, fresh off the best season of his career, straight to Philadelphia. Brown had just averaged 28.7 points a game as Boston's clear #1 option, earning an All-NBA second-team selection. In return, Boston received Paul George, a 36-year-old on one of the worst contracts in the league, who dealt with injuries and a 25-game suspension during his time in Philly, averaging just 16.7 points as a Sixer. Add 2 first-round picks on Philadelphia's side, and that was essentially the entire cost. Brad Stevens explained the logic afterward, pointing directly at the salary cap. With Brown and Tatum combined eating roughly 70% of Boston's cap space, the path forward under this league's newer financial rules looked increasingly difficult to sustain. The math genuinely made sense from a pure spreadsheet perspective. Boston ducked under a brutal luxury tax threshold, and George's contract comes off the books a full year earlier than Brown's would have. But intentional or not, what that trade actually produced was a super team, and Boston handed it directly to one of their biggest rivals. Compare this to the most legendary offseasons in league history. The 2007 Celtics gave up a mountain of young talent and picks just to acquire Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen. The 2010 Miami Heat had to gut their entire roster just to open enough space for LeBron and Chris Bosh. The 2019 Clippers paid 5 first-round picks and a future MVP in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just to land Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Every single legendary offseason before this one came with a brutal, painful price tag. Philadelphia's entire bill was one declining veteran they wanted gone anyway, plus 2 first-round picks. On paper, this is the cheapest super team ever assembled in modern NBA history. So, what does this roster actually look like now? Say this lineup out loud. Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown, LeBron James, and Joel Embiid. If you'd said that sentence back in October, someone would have assumed you needed a drug test. And here's the part that makes this signing genuinely valuable. LeBron doesn't need to average anywhere close to his usual numbers for this contract to be worth it. He could produce roughly half of this typical output, and this deal would still be an absolute steal, because he's playing for a veteran's minimum salary. Every single piece of this roster fills a specific gap that's haunted this franchise for years. Tyrese Maxey remains the team's primary downhill scorer, someone who led this roster in points last season. Jaylen Brown slots in as a two-way wing who can shoulder heavy offensive responsibility on any given night. VJ Edgecombe brings youthful athleticism and defensive upside as he continues developing. Joel Embiid, when healthy, remains one of the most dominant low-post scorers this league has ever produced. And LeBron James fills the one role this roster has never truly had: a genuine floor general who elevates everyone else's shot quality simply by drawing extra defensive attention and making the right read every single possession. This isn't LeBron walking in expecting to be the focal point. On plenty of nights, he'll realistically be the fourth option in this exact lineup. And that's precisely what makes this decision so fascinating. A man chasing status doesn't walk away from $52 million to become option 4 somewhere else. A man chasing one final championship does exactly that. Every piece here complements the others instead of competing with them, and that's genuinely rare in modern basketball, where egos usually collide long before championships get won. This roster isn't just talented on paper, it's constructed with actual chemistry in mind. 4 players who each thrive without needing the basketball constantly in their own hands.
You know, this team clearly is loaded. And you look at that starting 5, to me, it's arguably the most formidable starting 5 in the NBA.
So, where does this leave Philadelphia heading into the season? Nearly every serious analyst covering this league has slotted the Sixers into the conversation as legitimate championship contenders, right alongside teams like Oklahoma City, San Antonio, and the defending champion New York Knicks. And on paper, it's genuinely hard to argue against that placement. 4 players who, when healthy, all carry legitimate all-NBA level talent, built through one trade and one veteran signing. That kind of roster simply doesn't come together this fast or this cheaply under normal circumstances. But there's one variable hanging over absolutely everything, and everyone covering this team already knows exactly what it is: Embiid's health. For years, the single biggest obstacle standing between Philadelphia and a real championship run has never been talent, it's always been availability. This entire plan, Jaylen Brown's fit, LeBron's final championship pursuit, all of it rests directly on Embiid actually staying on the floor. A super team whose franchise center can't consistently play games is just an expensive tragedy wearing nicer jerseys. And the road through the East has genuinely never looked tougher. The Knicks are the defending champions. Miami just landed Giannis Antetokounmpo. Cleveland remains stacked and understandably frustrated by this exact decision. LeBron is 41 years old, entering his 24th season, and this roster essentially has one job: win now, before its 2 oldest, most fragile pillars run out of runway completely. Realistically, that championship window is about 2 years long, if that. So bring this back to where it all started. LeBron's exit from Los Angeles was never about basketball fit or diminished role. He was thriving as the third option, shooting over 51%, resting comfortably on a graceful path toward retirement. He walked away from all of that anyway. That tells you everything about why he actually left. It wasn't about usage. It was about being written out of the plan without a conversation. And this contract, taking a 92% pay cut to become potentially the 4th option on a new roster, proves that theory beyond any reasonable doubt. On paper, Philadelphia just assembled the cheapest, most efficient super team in modern NBA history, and did it almost entirely by accident, built off one rival's cap sheet decision and one legend's desire for genuine respect over one final paycheck. But winning an offseason on paper has never guaranteed a championship banner. This city hasn't seen a conference final since Allen Iverson in 2001. So either Boston just handed a championship to one of their biggest rivals without realizing it, or Joel Embiid's body gives out one more time and this becomes the most expensive what-if in modern basketball history. Either way, we're about to find out. So tell me, did LeBron make the right call, and does ring chasing at 41 change how you view his legacy? Drop your take below and subscribe.